Have you ever looked at an empty plastic bottle and wondered if it could live a second life? Something far more beautiful than just ending up in trash? In today's journey, we'll breathe new life into these everyday bottles by turning them into charming hanging planters that dance gently in the wind. Picture this: a plain fence or balcony rail. Nothing special, just wood or iron slowly fading with time. Now imagine colorful bottles, cut and shaped, hanging gracefully with bright flowers spilling from their open sides. Suddenly, the ordinary corner of your home transforms into a lively vertical garden. The soft sunlight touches the green leaves, and when the wind blows, you hear not waste, but life. The process is simpler than you might think. A pair of scissors, a little string, and soil are all it takes. Cut the bottle carefully, make small holes for drainage, and let your creativity guide the rest. Some choose to paint their bottles in cheerful colors, while others leave them transparent, so the roots and soil can be part of the design. Herbs, succulents, or even tiny blooms thrive inside these recycled cradles, creating not just beauty, but also a sense of connection with the earth. And here's the secret. Every time you water these little gardens, you're reminded that beauty doesn't always come from buying something new. It can be born from what we already have, if only we choose to see it differently. So next time you hold a plastic bottle in your hand, pause. Feel the potential it carries. In your garden, on your balcony, or by your window, these hanging planters can bring joy, freshness, and a gentle whisper of sustainability. There is something deeply nostalgic about the sound an old tin can rolling across the floor. Once, it may have held soup or beans, a small part of daily life. And then, most people would throw it away. But here, in this little corner of creativity, a tin can become more than trash. It becomes a vessel of life, a humble flower pot. Imagine holding one of these cans in your hands. The cool surface still carries a faint memory of its past, but now, with just a touch of paint and a splash of imagination, it transforms into something full of charm. Soft pastel blues, sunny yellows, or rustic earthy tones. Your brush strokes add personality to every curve of the metal. Even simple stripes or dots can make the can glow with character. Place a handful of soil inside. Tuck in a small plant, maybe bright marigold, sweet lavender, or fragrant basil. The roots nestle in as if they were always meant to be there. Set the can by your windowsill. Line them up along a balcony or hang them on a fence. And suddenly your home bursts with color and life. The clinking sound when the wind moves them feels like a gentle reminder that beauty can come from the simplest things. This little project is more than decoration. It's a lesson in slowing down, in finding wonder in what others overlook. Each tin can flower pot tells a quiet story of reuse, of patience, and of joy blooming in unexpected places. So next time you finish your morning coffee and hold that empty can, don't toss it away. Imagine the flowers it could cradle, the herbs it could nurture, and the beauty it could bring into your everyday world. A wooden pallet, rough, simple, often left behind in warehouses or tucked away in forgotten corners, carries a quiet potential to become something extraordinary. Where most see only discarded wood, a creative heart sees a blank canvas for life. With a little care, this humble frame can be reborn as a vertical garden, a living wall of color and freshness. Picture the pallet leaning gently against your garden wall or balcony railing. Though it still bears its natural imperfections, small cracks and grain patterns that tell stories of its journey. Between those wooden slats, pockets of soil, cradle herbs, leafy greens, or vibrant flowers. As sunlight spills over the surface, the pallet seems to breathe, transforming a plain wall into a thriving garden. The beauty of this design lies in its practicality. A vertical garden saves space while multiplying the joy of greenery. In a small apartment balcony, where every inch matters, this palette becomes a lush backdrop of life. Imagine reaching out in the morning to pick fresh mint leaves for your tea, or running your fingers across tiny blossoms that brighten your day. Creating it is an act of transformation. Sand the wood gently, maybe add a coat of paint for charm, or leave it raw for rustic appeal. Insert pots or craft small cloth pockets for soil. The plants don't just grow, they cascade, flowing over like nature reclaiming forgotten spaces. Every time you water this vertical garden, it whispers a lesson. Beauty often blooms where patience and creativity meet. A wooden pallet is no longer scrap. It is a stage where life performs quietly, reminding us that renewal can be found in even the simplest materials. An old tire, once spinning endlessly on roads, now rests quietly in your garden. Where it once carried weight and speed, it can now cradle stillness and life. With a little imagination, this forgotten circle of rubber transforms into a miniature fish pond, a tiny oasis that brings peace and wonder to even the smallest outdoor space. Picture the scene, a corner of your backyard or balcony where sunlight falls softly. An old tire, cleaned and painted with cheerful colors, sits snugly in place. Inside, cool water reflects the sky like a small mirror of the heavens. A few smooth pebbles settle at the bottom. Plants float gently, and tiny fish weave through the calm water. What once was waste has become a sanctuary of life. The process is simpler than it seems. Place the tire securely on the ground, line it with waterproof material, and fill it with water. Add stones, water lilies, or floating plants to give it character. If you choose, introduce a few small fish. Their playful movements will turn the pond into a living artwork. Even without fish, the gentle shimmer of water in the sunlight has its own magic. This miniature pond does more than decorate. It invites you to pause, to lean closer, to notice the small ripples as the breeze brushes the surface. It reminds us that beauty doesn't always require grandeur. Sometimes it lies in a quiet tire reborn with purpose. Each time you glance at your little pond, you'll feel a soft sense of joy. It is proof that creativity can turn endings into beginnings, and that something once discarded can hold an entire world of life. There's a quiet genius hidden in the simplest things. A plastic bottle, ordinary and overlooked, can hold not just soil and roots, but also the secret of constant care. With a little creativity, it becomes a self-watering planter, a small ecosystem that tends to itself, offering life even when you're too busy to remember. Imagine a row of these bottles by your window. The design is clever yet simple. Cut the bottle in half, flip the top, and let it nestle inside the bottom. A cotton wick threads through the opening, drinking water from below, carrying it gently to the thirsty soil above. Day by day, the plant thrives, green, alive, never parched. This little invention is perfect for herbs, small flowers, or leafy greens. Basil, mint, or parsley flourish with steady moisture, and you never again worry about forgetting to water them. You glance at the clear plastic, and you can see it working. Droplets forming, soil dark with life, roots stretching toward the source. It is a beautiful reminder that nature always finds a way. Beyond its practicality, there is a kind of poetry here. The bottle, once destined for the landfill, now becomes a guardian of growth. It teaches patience, balance, and care. Every sip of water drawn up by the wick feels like a promise kept. On busy mornings, when you rush past your windowsill, the sight of green leaves thriving quietly gives you comfort. You realize that beauty does not always require constant effort. Sometimes, it only needs a thoughtful design. And in that humble bottle, you find not just a planter, but a little lesson in how life sustains itself when given the chance. There is something deeply satisfying about placing a simple glass jar on a windowsill and watching it turn into a cradle of life. Once filled with jam, sauces, or pickles, these jars often wait in cupboards with no clear purpose. But give them soil, seeds, and a little sunlight, and suddenly they awaken as miniature gardens, quietly growing herbs that bring both beauty and flavor into your home. Imagine the morning light spilling through your kitchen window, glinting on clear glass. Inside each jar, small green shoots stretch toward the sun. Basil with its sweet aroma, rosemary with its pine-like fragrance, and parsley with its delicate leaves, all thriving in recycled vessels that were once meant for disposal. Every jar tells a story of rebirth, of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Creating your glass jar herb garden is as simple as it is rewarding. Wash the jars thoroughly, add a layer of pebbles for drainage, then fill them with soil. Sow your seeds or transplant small herb cuttings. Place the jars where sunlight is generous, and let nature do the rest. In a few weeks, you'll find yourself reaching out to pinch a few leaves for your cooking, adding freshness directly from your windowsill to your plate. But beyond the practicality, there's a quiet beauty in watching herbs grow inside glass. The roots, usually hidden, become visible. The condensation on the sides tells you the ecosystem is alive. It feels intimate, as though you are watching nature's quiet work unfold right before your eyes. Every time you cook with those herbs, you'll taste not just freshness, but the joy of creating something meaningful from what others might have thrown away. And that is the true magic of a recycled glass jar herb garden. Sometimes, an old chair sits forgotten in the corner of a house. Its seat broken, its paint chipped, no longer trusted to hold weight. Yet within its frame lies a chance for reinvention. With just a touch of imagination, a worn-out chair can become something delightful. A planter, a throne for flowers and greenery to reign. Picture in your garden. The chair, once silent and unused, now bursts with life. Where people once sat, now blooms a geranium spill over the edges, or a cascade of ivy tumbles gracefully toward the ground. The backrest frames the plants like artwork, turning the whole piece into a living sculpture. Even the imperfections, the scratches, the peeling paint, become part of its rustic charm. Transforming a chair into a planter is easier than you might expect. Remove the seat or carve a space in the middle. Place a pot or line it with a basket and fill it with rich soil. From there, let your creativity decide. Bright flowers for cheer, herbs for practicality, or cascading plants for drama. You can even paint a frame in bold colors, turning it into a statement piece that draws the eye from across the yard. The result is more than just decoration. It is a reminder that nothing truly loses its value. It only waits for a new story. Each time you pass the chair planter, you'll smile, not only at the flowers, but the thought of how something once discarded now stands proudly in your garden, offering joy and life. In this way, the chair continues to serve, not as a seat for rest, but as a stage for beauty, proving that creativity can always turn endings into new beginnings. Every shoe tells a story. The boots that carried you through rainy streets, the sneakers that ran with you on busy mornings, or the sandals that walked you quietly through summer days, all eventually grow old and weary. But instead of being forgotten, those shoes can find a new purpose, holding not footsteps, but life itself. Imagine setting an old pair of boots in the corner of your garden. Their leather worn, their soles softened with age, now filled with soil and vibrant blooms. Tiny marigolds push through where laces once tied tight, or mint leaves spill gently over the edge. The shoe, once made for journeys, now stands still, nurturing a journey of growth instead. Creating a shoe planter is wonderfully simple. Take an old pair, clean it lightly but let its character remain. Drill a few small drainage holes in the sole, fill it with soil, and nestle your chosen plants inside. Herbs, small flowers, or even succulents adapt beautifully to this new home. Arrange them along a fence on your porch, or scatter them playfully in your backyard. Each pair becomes a whimsical piece of art, a touch of surprise that makes visitors smile. There is a playful poetry in this transformation. Shoes that once walked through mud and sunshine now cradle blossoms that sway in the breeze. They carry memories, and now they carry beauty. It is a gentle reminder that nothing is too worn out to bloom again. Every time you see those shoes in your garden, you'll remember not only where they once took you, but also how they become part of a new path. One rooted in creativity, color, and the quiet joy of renewal. An old teapot whispers of mornings past. Cups of tea shared, steam curling into the air, conversations that warm the heart. When its handle grows worn and its spout no longer pours, many would place it in storage or throw it away. Yet with a little imagination, this vessel of comfort becomes something new. A planter that pours beauty instead of tea. Picture it sitting on a garden table, its silver or ceramic surface catching the sunlight. Instead of steam, fresh leaves rise from the spout, and flowers spill cheerfully from the open top. The teapot, once a servant of warmth, now nurtures life in another form. A kettle, too, with its sturdy shape, becomes a charming pot for herbs or succulents, blending nostalgia with freshness. Turning a teapot or kettle into a planter requires little effort. Clean it thoroughly, drill a drainage hole at the bottom if possible, and fill it with soil. Then let creativity decide. Perhaps soft lavender that recalls the fragrance of tea time, or cheerful daisies that make it look as though the pot is overflowing with sunshine. Painted kettles add a playful touch, while vintage pieces bring rustic elegance. The magic lies not just in the plants, but in the way the object itself carries memory. Each glance at the teapot planter reminds you of slow mornings and quiet rituals, now woven into the rhythm of your garden. It's a conversation piece, too. Guests smile when they see a kettle pouring leaves instead of liquid, a playful twist on something familiar. What was once a forgotten kitchen item now lives proudly outdoors, telling a story of reinvention. It shows us that beauty often brews in unexpected places, if only we are willing to look with creative eyes. There is a special joy in giving everyday objects a playful twist, especially when creativity meets sustainability. A simple plastic bottle, often tossed away without thought, can become something magical when painted and shaped into the likeness of animals. Suddenly, it is no longer waste. It is a planter with personality, one that brings smiles as well as greenery. Imagine a windowsill lined with these creations, a bottle with pointed ears painted as a cat, its head sprouting green leaves like playful fur, another shaped into a rabbit, with flowers blooming as though from its back. Each planter feels alive, carrying not just a plant, but also character and charm. Sunlight glows through the bright paint, and the whole scene becomes a little gallery of joy. Making them is as delightful as the final result. Cut the bottles carefully, smooth the edges, and paint them in cheerful colors. Add details, eyes, whiskers, ears, or paws that bring the animal to life. Then, fill with soil and your chosen plant. Succulents look especially adorable, their rounded shapes echoing the playfulness of the design. This is also a wonderful project to share with children. It sparks their imagination and teaches them the beauty of recycling in a way they can see and touch. What grows from these bottles is more than herbs or flowers. It's a sense of connection between creativity and care, between fun and responsibility. Every time you water the little plants, you can't help but smile at the whimsical faces looking back at you. These painted animal planters remind us that sustainability doesn't have to be serious or heavy. It can be joyful, colorful, and filled with laughter. From plastic waste comes not just beauty, but also companionship. Tiny creatures that brighten your space and your heart. A wooden crate once carried goods across markets, fruits, bottles, or supplies. Rough and functional, it often ends its journey stacked in storage or discarded without thought. But in the gentle hands of creativity, these crates can begin a new life as charming garden boxes, bringing warmth and greenery into any space. Picture a balcony or backyard where ordinary crates line up, no longer empty, but filled with soil and life. One holds herbs, basil, mint, parsley, whose fragrances drift with the breeze. Another cradles bright flowers, spilling colors over the edges. Their rustic wooden slats give each planter a natural charm, making them feel both humble and timeless. Even without paint, the texture of age creates a beautiful contrast with the freshness of green leaves. The transformation requires only a few steps. Choose crates that are sturdy, line them with fabric or plastic to hold the soil, and fill them generously. You can place them directly on the ground, stack them for height, or mount them on walls for a vertical touch. A coat of paint turns them playful, while leaving them bare keeps a rustic farm-like feel. The choice is yours, guided by the spirit you want your garden to carry. Beyond their beauty, crate planters are practical. They make gardening accessible even in small spaces, perfect for urban balconies or patios. They allow you to experiment with herbs, vegetables, or decorative plants in a compact yet organized way. And every time you glance at them, you're reminded of a simple truth. What once carried products now carries life. These recycled crate boxes embody the essence of upcycling, finding new purpose in the ordinary. They tell a story of resourcefulness, of turning old journeys into new beginnings, and a beauty discovered in the most modest of materials. A clay pot breaking can feel like an ending. The crack, the split, the pieces scattered. It seems like the object has lost its purpose. Yet in the world of creativity, even brokenness holds possibility. With patience and vision, a shattered pot can transform into a fairy garden, a tiny enchanted world where imagination and nature live side by side. Picture the broken terracotta pot resting on a table. Instead of discarding it, you nestle the pieces together, layering soil within its curves. Small succulents peek out from the cracks, their green forms contrasting beautifully with the warm tones of clay. Moss spreads like a soft carpet, and miniature stairs made from pebbles wind upward, inviting the eye to climb. Tiny figurines, a fairy house, a lantern, or a little bridge, turn the planter into a scene from a storybook. This project is more than recycling. It is storytelling. Each broken edge becomes part of the design, framing plants as if nature itself had reshaped the pot. Cascading plants spill from the gaps like waterfalls, while smaller blooms settle in the corners, creating the sense of a hidden world just waiting to be discovered. The process is both playful and meditative. You arrange pieces not just to hold soil, but to suggest landscapes. A hill here, a pathway there, a secret corner for imagination. Children love the magic of it, and adults find peace in its quiet charm. In the end, the broken pot no longer feels like a loss. It becomes a reminder that imperfection carries its own beauty, and that endings can be turned into beginnings. Every glance at your fairy garden whispers of resilience, wonder, and the joy of finding stories in the simplest of places. Sometimes, the simplest structures hold the greatest charm. A wooden ladder, especially one made from leftover scrap wood, is more than just a tool for climbing. It can become a stage where plants rise gracefully, each step carrying a touch of green. With a little imagination, a ladder transforms into a vertical garden stand, blending rustic warmth with practical beauty. Picture it leaning gently against a garden wall. The wood, imperfect and rough, tells of its past life. But now, each rung supports a pot of flowers, herbs, or trailing vines. At the top, cheerful daisies catch the sunlight. Halfway down, fragrant rosemary stands proud. Near the bottom, ivy cascades downward, softening the edges with natural flow. The ladder, once plain, now feels alive. Creating a ladder plant stand doesn't require new lumber. Old scraps, assembled carefully, can form a sturdy frame. Sand the surfaces for safety, add a coat of paint if you wish, or leave the wood bare for rustic character. The joy lies in arranging plants at different heights, allowing layers of greenery to weave together like a living tapestry. What makes this design special is its adaptability. In a small balcony, it maximizes vertical space without crowding. In a backyard, it becomes a centerpiece that draws the eye upward. And because it's mobile, you can move it easily, placing it in sunlight, shade, or even bringing it indoors to brighten a room. Every glance at the ladder reminds you of creativity's gift, turning scraps into structure and structure into beauty. It's not just a plant stand. It's a story of reinvention, a reminder that even the most ordinary materials can rise to something extraordinary when given a second chance. There is something magical about holding a small world in your hands. A light bulb, once used to brighten a room, can continue its purpose in a different way, by holding a miniature garden of its own. When hollowed and cleaned, it becomes a delicate terrarium, a glass vessel where moss, pebbles, and tiny plants live quietly, glowing with life instead of electricity. Picture it resting on a desk or hanging gently in front of a window. The bulb, simple and transparent, reveals a scene within. Smooth stones at the base, a layer of soil, and soft green moss that seems to breathe in the light. Perhaps a tiny succulent grows steadily inside, its leaves pressing gently against the curved glass. Condensation dots the surface now and then, proof that the little ecosystem is alive and self-sustaining. Creating one requires patience, but the process feels like crafting a secret world. With tweezers and careful hands, you layer the elements, arranging them like an artist arranging a canvas. Each bulb is unique, carrying its own landscape, some minimalist, with only moss and stone, others playful with tiny figurines hidden among the plants. The beauty of these terrariums lies not only in their appearance, but also in their symbolism. A light bulb that once illuminated rooms now cradles a new kind of light, the gentle, living glow of nature. It teaches us that even the most fragile materials can be reborn, carrying purpose beyond their first design. Every time you glance at this small gardening glass, you're reminded of life's quiet resilience. It's not just decoration. It's a story of transformation, of light becoming life, and creativity finding beauty in even the most fragile objects. A plastic bucket often begins its life carrying water, paint, or household supplies. Over time, it becomes scratched, faded, and seemingly useless. But in the quiet language of creativity, even these worn containers can bloom again, as flower pots that carry color, fragrance, and life. Imagine walking into your backyard where old buckets, once plain and forgotten, now stand proudly filled with blossoms. One holds bright marigolds, their orange heads glowing in the sun. Another cradles herbs, mint and basil stretching upward with fresh green. Some buckets are painted with cheerful colors, sky blue, sunny yellow, or earthy terracotta, while others remain raw, their worn surfaces telling stories of use and resilience. Transforming them is refreshingly simple. Clean the buckets thoroughly, drill small drainage holes at the bottom, and fill them with soil. You can paint or decorate them to match your garden's personality, or leave them rustic for a raw, industrial charm. The wide space inside makes them perfect for larger plants, even small shrubs or vegetables that need more room to grow. What's special about bucket planters is their strength and size. They are sturdy, easy to move, and surprisingly versatile. Line them up against a wall to form a mini garden, or scatter them around the yard for bursts of color in unexpected places. Each time you water them, you'll see how something once overlooked has become a vessel of joy. There's poetry in their transformation. Buckets that once carried the heavy work of daily life now carry blossoms and greenery. They remind us that usefulness doesn't have to end. It can simply change form. And in their second life, they don't just hold plants. They hold proof that beauty can emerge even from the most ordinary of things. An old drawer, once part of a busy cabinet, often ends up forgotten, its paint chipped, its handle loose, its corners worn from years of use. Yet within its simple frame lies a hidden potential to become a garden box that brings new life where order once lived. Picture a drawer set on a patio, filled not with clothes or papers, but with soil and blossoms. Bright pansies spill over the edges, their petals glowing in the sunlight. In another, herbs stretch upward, basil, thyme, and mint, fragrant and full of energy. The wood, whether painted fresh or left rustic, frames the plants beautifully, turning the ordinary into something unexpectedly charming. Creating this transformation requires almost no effort. Clean the drawer, drill small drainage holes, and fill it with soil. You can place it directly on the ground, stack multiple drawers for a tiered effect, or even mount one against a wall for a vertical touch. The shape and depth make it perfect for shallow-rooted plants, flowers, or even a miniature vegetable patch. What makes drawers so special as planters is their character. Each scratch, each faded mark, speaks of its history. When paired with the freshness of plants, this contrast becomes a quiet poetry. The old holding the new, the worn embracing the living. It reminds us that beauty doesn't always need perfection. It often lives in the balance of past and present. Each time you pass your garden drawer, you'll feel a small spark of joy. It is no longer just furniture, but a living box of growth and memory. Proof that reinvention is always possible, even for the most ordinary objects that once seemed finished with their purpose. A tin can is often seen as empty once its purpose is served. But in the quiet touch of creativity, it can shine again literally. With a few simple steps, these humble cans can become hanging garden lights, glowing softly like tiny stars scattered through the night. Picture a warm evening in your backyard. The sky fades into twilight, and from the branches of a tree or along the fence, tin can lanterns begin to glow. Their painted surfaces catch the flicker of candlelight within, while patterns of holes, stars, hearts, or swirls cast delicate shapes across the ground. The air feels magical, as though the night itself has been stitched with light. Creating them is as joyful as their glow. Clean the cans, paint them in bright or metallic colors, and punch holes with a hammer and nail in the patterns you like. Place a small candle or LED light inside, and suddenly the can transforms from waste to wonder. Hanging them with wire or string completes the charm, turning your garden into a cozy haven after sunset. These lights are not just decoration. They carry a sense of intimacy. They brighten gatherings with friends, soften quiet evenings alone, and add character to even the smallest balcony. Each flicker reminds you of how simple things can hold unexpected beauty when given another chance. The magic of painted tin can lanterns lies in their duality. By day, they are cheerful splashes of color. By night, they are keepers of gentle light. And every time you see them glowing, you remember it doesn't take much to create warmth. Sometimes, all it takes is a little paint, a few holes, and the courage to imagine light where others see only emptiness. A wine bottle, once shared at a celebration or a quiet evening, often ends its story in the recycling bin. Yet the shape of glass, elegant, strong, and timeless, carries a beauty that deserves more than one purpose. With creativity and patience, wine bottles can become the heart of a vertical garden wall, transforming plain spaces into shimmering, living art. Picture a wall of green glass bottles, sunlight streaming through them like liquid emeralds. Some are mounted horizontally, each cradling soil and herbs. Others stand vertically, cut open and filled with trailing ivy or delicate flowers. Together, they create a patchwork of greenery and glass, alive with both color and light. What was once waste becomes a wall that breathes. Making such a design requires some care. The bottles are cleaned, sometimes cut with glass tools, and arranged in wooden or metal frames. Small openings hold soil and plants stretch outward, grateful for the balance of light and shade. The transparency of the bottles adds a charm. You can see droplets form, roots explore, and light dance through the green. This kind of garden wall is not only beautiful, but also deeply symbolic. It turns a product of celebration into a long-lasting reminder of renewal. It saves space in small homes, turning empty walls into vibrant gardens. And it adds a touch of elegance, blending rustic sustainability with modern design. Each time you glance at your wine bottle garden, you'll feel a quiet satisfaction. The bottles no longer sit forgotten. They glow, they grow, they live again. And they remind you that even in ordinary materials, there lies extraordinary possibility when we choose to see it. An old bicycle often waits in silence, its tires flat, its chain stiff, no longer able to carry riders through winding streets. Yet even in its stillness, it holds the shape of movement, the promise of journeys. With imagination, it can begin a new path, as a planter that carries flowers instead of travelers and beauty instead of speed. Picture a garden corner where a bicycle stands, leaning gently against a fence. The frame, perhaps painted white or left with original rust, becomes part of the charm. In the front basket, geraniums spill brightly, their petals dancing with the breeze. Along the back rack, herbs sit in pots, sending out fragrance with every brush of wind. Even the spokes catch sunlight, weaving patterns across the ground. The bicycle, once a vehicle of motion, now becomes a vehicle of life. Creating such a piece requires only heart and vision. You don't need a perfect bicycle. One with age, scratches, and faded paint feels more authentic. Add baskets or attach pots securely. Fill them with soil and let the plants take over. Flowers with trailing habits, like petunias or ivy, look especially magical as they cascade over the edges, softening the hard lines of metal. This decoration is more than just whimsy, it tells a story. The bicycle no longer moves through streets, but it still travels in memory, carrying moments of freedom and adventure. Now, it carries blossoms, turning stillness into grace. Each time you see it in your garden, you'll smile, not just at the flowers, but at the reminder that even when our paths change, beauty can continue in unexpected forms. The bicycle planter shows that endings can always be reimagined into beginnings, quiet, colorful, and alive. A tire's life on the road is filled with motion, weight, and wear. When it finally loses its strength, many see only waste. But with imagination, a tire can be reborn into something both practical and beautiful. A garden seat that offers rest while nurturing plants at the same time. Picture a sunny corner of your garden. A tire, once dark and heavy, now gleams with fresh paint. Perhaps bright turquoise, sunny yellow, or earthy terracotta. On top, a wooden plank or cushion transforms it into a sturdy seat. Around its rim, soil cradles flowers or cascading greenery, softening the tire's edges with life. When you sit, you're not just resting, you're surrounded by a circle of color and growth. Creating one is simpler than it sounds. Clean the tire thoroughly, paint it with outdoor-friendly colors, and secure a seat on top. The hollow rim can be filled with soil, turning the seat into a planter as well. Imagine violets spilling gently over the edges, or small herbs adding fragrance to the air as you sit. Each seat becomes unique, reflecting your personal touch and style. What makes these recycled tire seats special is their blend of function and creativity. They invite people to sit to pause, to share conversations, all while reminding them of nature's resilience. A gathering of such seats can transform a backyard into a playful lounge, where old tires find new purpose and guests find comfort. Every time you sit on one, you'll feel a quiet satisfaction. This seat carries not only your weight, but also the story of renewal. It is proof that even what seems worn out can support new life and joy. The tire no longer speeds along roads. It stays rooted, blooming with beauty in the heart of your garden.